don't you run from me? What are you wondering? What do you know? Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? When we all fall asleep, where do we go? Our topic today is Billie Eilish. Welcome to Pop Culture Catechism, where we take a look at art from pop culture and uncover the true, good, and beautiful elements found therein. Let's get started. Welcome to Pop Culture Catechism on AWAKEN Catholic. You can support this show and shows like it by becoming part of the AWAKEN Nation. You can make a monthly donation. Go to awakencatholic.org/donate and you get access. Not only do you do an awesome thing in supporting the shows here and feeding the people that make these shows and keeping the lights on and the cameras running, but you also gain access to exclusive content. You get talks from show hosts and presenters like me, some talks that I've given that you won't get any other way, and lots of other cool perks as well. You can also download the AWAKEN app, which is not in the App Store. You have to go to the awakenapp.io and you get to chat with show hosts like me and about the shows, about other things. It's a great little Catholic community, getting larger all the time. And if you are part of the AWAKEN Nation, you also get premium content through the AWAKEN app as well. Another great app that also helps us out is the Hallow app. If you go to hallow.app/awaken, you get a free month of the premium version of the app. And that helps us out as well. And it's an awesome way to kind of jumpstart your prayer life. My wife uses it every night. I love to do the Examen. She loves to do the Rosary and the readings of the day. It's just, do it in the car. It's a great way if you're looking for a little more Jesus in your life. And as always, you can just like and share and subscribe and rate and review. Send a text to somebody and say, hey, this episode's on Billie Eilish. I know you're a fan, or I think this might be interesting for you. Check it out. All that stuff helps us. Thank you so much. So this topic today, Billie Eilish, is actually by request. I've gotten a couple people that have suggested that I do this. Thank you, especially Chris, who recommended that I do this episode. And I was thinking about who do I want to talk about Billie Eilish with, and my friend Kevin Heider runs an awesome podcast about songwriting called Song and Story Podcast. And you're a great songwriter in your own right. You have a brand new album out. Yep. Well, by the time this is filming, it won't be brand new. It will have been out for a couple months, and I'll let you tell us about it. But I knew when I was listening to Billie Eilish, is like, this album was made in a bedroom. This album was recorded at home, and it was written not primarily just with an instrument, but also with like the software and the programming. And I was like, I need somebody who knows about the different ways to write songs and knows a lot about songwriting. And I was like, Kevin Heider is who I need on this episode. So welcome, Kevin, to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And thank you for driving to be here. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, singer-songwriter, born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. That's where I live now, again, currently with my wife and our 4 kids. And I say singer-songwriter as a genre. It's very ambiguous. It can encompass everybody from Bob Dylan to Taylor Swift to Billie Eilish. Mm-hmm. And Dylan and Eilish, very different. Yeah. Uh-huh. Which I learned
as you were listening to Billie.
Yeah, as I've been really kind of diving into Billie's canon. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you. I know when I first reached out to you, you were like, well, I haven't really listened to her much, but I'm willing to, and just thank you for being willing to do the homework.
Yeah, man. So. Well, I was actually at an Oscars party. I love watching the Oscars live. And they kept showing this girl in the audience with green hair, and I didn't know who it was. Mm-hmm. And I said, who is that? Why do they keep showing this person? They said, it's Billie Eilish. I said, who?
Oh, I'm supposed to know who that is. Yeah.
And they were shocked. They're like, you do music. How do you not know who this is? I feel like I've heard the name, but I didn't know anything. Yeah. And then she came up to sing the song live for the In Memoriam, which is when they, show the reel of all the people involved in Hollywood who've passed over the year. And she sang absolutely beautiful arrangement of Yesterday.
I did see that
Beatles song, and it was so pretty, and I was like, oh wow, she's really good. Mm-hmm. Still didn't dive in until you asked me to kind of be a part of this conversation. Mm-hmm. The stuff that she puts out, I will say, is like totally different.
Totally
than that.
different.
So
yeah.
it was somewhat shocking just in that respect.
So if you are like Kevin was and you don't know who Billie Eilish is, she's like maybe the biggest pop artist in the world right now. Like she's up there with Taylor Swift. I think until Taylor Swift's album Folklore came out in 2020, Billie Eilish was like the most streamed musician, and then on Spotify, and then Tay overtook her. But she's won she won a ton of Grammys off her last album. She's like one of the big names in pop music right now. And at the time that this episode will be released, she will have just come out with a documentary about her, and I'll put that in the show notes as well. And she's only like 19. So she's about to turn 19.
Is nuts.
Yeah. I think by the time this episode airs, she'll be 19.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So let's talk a little bit about just the art in the music of it. When you're listening to this, like what grabs you, what captures you? Like, what did you think was cool?
Well, it's very different listening to her songs as they're produced versus the little 3-song set that her and her brother did for NPR Tiny Desk. Mm-hmm. I mean, when it's just the two of them just playing live, it almost has kind of that old school jazz lounge,
lots of jazz influence,
vibe, it had a very classical feel to me. So then when you listen to the produced stuff, again, totally different. And so that was kind of my trajectory. My trajectory was the song at the Oscars, beautiful arrangement of a classic, and then the simple kind of little live 3-song jazz lounge set. And then I entered into everything else. So totally, like, the talent is undeniable.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's phenomenal. And I kept listening to it, and I watched some interviews and just kept thinking, like, it is shocking to me that she put this out when she was 16 or 17. Like, it's nuts.
So I was watching an interview with her as well, and she said, so she was homeschooled, and her brother Phineas, who produced the album, they just produced it like in her bedroom. Yeah. And so apparently her parents had a rule that if they were making music, the parents were not allowed to say, you have to go to bed. They were allowed to stay up as late as they want.
Oh, that's fun.
As long as they were making music, they were allowed to stay up. And so that's how you get a 16-year-old. And, I think Phineas is a few years older, but who can make this level of music. So all you homeschool parents, just discern whether that's a rule for you. But yeah, I just... she reminds me of being a child of the 90s, and much of my musical stylings and a lot of what I still listen to is 90s music. It reminds me of artists like Fiona Apple, reminds me of even Marilyn Manson, like the beautiful people. Before we started filming, we were watching some of the videos, and I said, yeah, it's Marilyn Manson. It's definitely got some of that macabre kind of imagery to it. And I was thinking what I was going to title this episode, and I was thinking I'm going to call it like Billie Eilish Homeschool Gothic.
Yeah.
And if so, I was an English major at Catholic U in my undergrad, and when we studied the American Gothic writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Flannery O'Connor, what they hone in on, the reason they hone in on these kind of depressing, even like shocking, bloody, I already used the word macabre, but those sorts of dark themes is because they reveal something about the human spirit when you come into contact with them. Yeah. And I feel like that is what Billie is tapping into a little bit with this dark imagery and talking about, death and self-harm and addiction.
There's definitely I don't exactly, it's not always clear, I think, where it leads, but there's definitely a memento mori theme through-out it.
Absolutely.
Especially,
memento mori meaning, for those of us who don't speak Latin.
Remember your death.
Remember your death, okay.
So I don't speak Latin, but I know that. I know that one. It's... no, I lost my train of thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I love is just how... like some of the beats they come up with are really cool and really catchy, like Bad Guy, like the... It's just... Yeah. It's just is just a lot of fun, and you can bop to it. Like when I was listening to it, just like around my kitchen, preparing for this episode, my wife was like, "What is this? I like this. I can vibe with this." She starts dancing, you know. So that's pretty cool.
See, that one to me kind of reminded me a little bit of not that it sounded like this, but in terms of the production and how catchy it was and how simple it was, and unique was another one by Sedust. Because it's just like, it's this driving, catchy bass line with not much else to it initially. And then it kind of throws a few surprises at you.
Well, and what I notice is, in some ways it's very produced, and it's in other ways, but as I know as a rule, Phineas and her, they've said that they don't use any pitch correction on her vocals, any auto-tune on her vocals, unless it's like intentionally supposed to sound robotic or something like that. And so they just do a million takes. So what you have a lot of like influence of like lo-fi hip hop, where it's like these sub basses that almost like you feel more than you hear. And then there's a lot of these really high frequencies on the other end, where she's like taking out her Invisalign, or it's knives sharpening or glass breaking. You can hear that all through the album, these really high frequencies and these really low frequencies, and not much in the middle except her voice. And that is very, very Queen, you know. We Will Rock You, it's just like his voice until the end, then you have a guitar solo. You know, so there is a lot of just letting the pureness of her voice shine through, and she's this close to the microphone, and you hear every breath and every, you know.
And she's they do a lot with the doubling of the vocals, which can correct, at least tricks the brain in the absence of pitch correction. Because there's so much I've used that trick before.
So you're telling me they're not as precise as I think they are? Well, they're still cheating a little bit.
I don't have perfect pitch.
Yeah, me neither.
But even just listening to the Tiny Desk stuff, which is all live, single camera take, like,
she's good.
She doesn't need it.
Yeah, she's really good.
I can't fathom her hitting a wrong note.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of it does kind of have the feel of you're in the bedroom, because it is so close. You know, it's so close to the microphone. There's not a lot of reverb and compression. It's right there.
Yeah, and
it's
often
like she's whispering in your ear.
Often you're in the bedroom having a beautiful nightmare.
A beautiful nightmare. Yeah. Like what is it about those that Gothic that just captures us, and we almost like it in some ways? There's something arresting about it. I don't know, but there are, throughout music history, you see these artists who go that way. Like David Bowie did it some, and I don't know what it is.
I don't know if it's like one of those things where it's like, hey, this is pretty fantastical.
Yeah.
Thank God it's not real. You know, like I wonder if
escapism.
if that plays any into it at all. But I don't know. It kind of. Did you ever see the film Pan's Labyrinth?
Yeah.
I didn't think of this comparison until just now.
That guy with the eyes in his hands.
It's
so
but
freaky.
it's that film is an amazing story or example of using art to kind of escape from the trauma. You know, it's this girl's, it's the Spanish Civil War going on around her, and it's a horrible world. And she's got this, I forget if it's I think it's the stepfather.
I don't remember.
Or the stepmother. One of them is not a good person, very violent person. And so to escape from this, she has this incredible like fantasy world that she's constructed in her mind. But it's just as bad. It's almost like the violence from the real world has infected this fantasy world, so there's no escape from it. So in a weird sense, I wonder if, especially, I think we see this more looking at Billie's music videos. And that's something I'd be interested to know, like, to what extent are these videos designed to enhance kind of like what's already going on in the song, or are they just ways to kind of reinterpret or reimagine it, you know? But it's almost like the macabre elements in the music are kind of coming into the dream world that she's creating in the music videos.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's some of it reminds me a little bit of Sia's music videos. Have you ever seen any of Sia's music videos? It's got a little bit of that flavor.
I've not seen any of Sia's.
Yeah, well, she's got some weird. It's not as like dark as Billie Eilish's, but it's kind of in that vein. And I feel like an artist like Billie has been coming for a while. Like we've had hints of stuff like this with Lorde a few years ago, and also Sia, and we're kind of coming out of the 2010s where it was Katy Perry, Taylor Swift is a pop star, not a country star, and Ariana Grande and Miley Cyrus twerking, and like it's this huge bubblegum pop phase.
Right.
And now we're getting into I think Lorde was kind of a reaction against that, and I think Billie Eilish is definitely a reaction against that. And she wears baggy clothes, she's not walking around in skimpy things, and she dances, but not in like a choreographed way. I feel like she's a reaction to what we've had for the past 10 years. So
she's dancing in very much kind of like a broken ankle type way.
Yes, absolutely. Let's so people don't know what she looks like. So that's Billie as her hair color of choice right now currently. This is the cover of her last big album, which came out in 2019, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And that was the song I opened with. That line comes from that song. So there she is in her bed, a little bit in that nightmare bedroom imagery. I mean, the album was made in the bedroom. It's interesting. There she is with her brother Phineas, and I love their relationship. They are with all their Grammys they won. And it's so tender, the brother-sister relationship, and he just supports her and she supports him, and he helps her learn about audio production, and they're teaching each other stuff, and it's just really cool to hear them talk about it. It's like, that's what I want for my boy and my girl, that they can collaborate and be friends, and it seems like really, it's funny because you get this image of her as like very twisted and dark and sick. And then she's like very wholesome homeschool kid. Like she goes on tour with her mom, and, even in Bad Guy, there's that lyric about like, my mommy likes to sing along, but if she pays attention to these lyrics, she won't, she won't like this song if she listens to the lyrics. So anything else about the art that you want to talk about?
Not necessarily.
All right. So let's, what are some, let's talk about some of the songs. Is there a song that really grabbed you that you wanted to talk about?
I'm going to let you pick.
All right. So I want to talk about, my favorite, I think is, where is it here? Everything I Wanted. So this is actually not off her last album. I think it was just released as a single. I had a dream I got everything I wanted, not what you'd think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare. Interesting. There's that nightmare idea we've been talking about. I thought I could fly. I stepped off from the Golden. I assume she's talking about the Golden Gate Bridge. So she's talking about jumping, flying, dying. But nobody even noticed. And so what I see here is her kind of wrestling with fame, and she has gotten everything she wanted. By the age of 16, 17, 18, she's an international pop star, armfuls of Grammys, more than she can hold. And she's followed on Instagram by millions of people. It's like, she's got everything she wanted. Like, what now? Is this my dream, or is this a nightmare? Because now all these people are looking at me, and like, what if I let them down? What if they stop caring? And now that I've got their attention, like, what do I do with it? What's next?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but they played this one for the Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she specified, I don't know if you remember this, that this was a song about each other.
Her and Phineas.
Yeah, being brother and sister, which I thought was really interesting. Like the one line that I highlighted that stuck out to me, having that context for it, was, if I could change the way you see, you wouldn't wonder why you were here. They don't deserve you. And that's like, I kind of say that to my wife, I think sometimes when she's, I don't know, I think we all have the tendency to, I wouldn't call it self-conscious, but we can all be like a little self-deprecating.
Yeah, insecure.
Especially with the people that we're most, familiar and vulnerable and comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And I probably said it to her a week ago, like, I wish that you could see yourself as I see you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then you wouldn't be saying any of this negative stuff about yourself.
Yeah.
And so like, I got that from the song. Like, if I could change the way you see, you wouldn't wonder why you were here. Like if you could see yourself as important as I see you.
Yeah.
Like you would know how much of a purpose you have.
Amen. Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like I've had that conversation with people, and people have had that conversation with me. And, I think of a relationship with God, all the times in Scripture where Jesus meets someone who is a sinner, Zacchaeus the tax collector, the woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery. And he's just like, does anyone here condemn you? I don't condemn you, go and sin no more. Like there's this loving gaze of, you see yourself as trash.
Yeah.
But you're my beloved son. You're my beloved daughter. A friend of mine was giving a talk one time, and he said, in all the Gospels and all the Bible, there's only one place where God the Father directly speaks to God the Son. There's other times where the voice of God appears and he speaks about Jesus, but there's only one time where he speaks directly to him, and it's at his baptism. And then one thing he says is, you are my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. And that idea that we are beloved, and like, that's what God sees. Like, he looks on us in all our muck and all our awfulness. And we as Christians, we're supposed to be sacramental in that way to one another. We're supposed to be the physical sign of that. So when my wife, my friend, is not seeing that beauty within them.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, there's a cat.
That scared the crap out of me.
Pop Culture Catechism. Yeah. So we are supposed to be that for one another. We're supposed to help one another recognize the beauty that we have, and encourage one another and say, no, you are beloved. It is hard for us to see it in ourselves sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And coming off of that, they don't deserve you. Like, to say that to somebody you love, like, you are such a gift to people, and they don't deserve you. But like, that's what makes it a gift.
It is a gift.
That you don't deserve it, So anyway, that was like, so it was funny to have that kind of thought about this song before then diving into the darker stuff.
Yeah, I was just thinking it was, kind of a more simple love song.
Well, it is that too.
It could be that too, and not that would be shallow in a romantic relationship. I don't know, but somehow knowing that it's the two of them, the brother and sister, that warms my heart.
Yeah,
like a warm cup of coffee. So interesting. I tried to scream, but my head was underwater. They called me weak, like I'm not just somebody's daughter. Interesting, like that idea that like they don't see me as somebody's beloved. They just see me as some girl on the internet who makes weird music.
Right.
Interesting. Lose sight of the person. All right. Yeah. That's anything else about that song?
I don't think so.
I love that song.
Yeah.
This is another one. Did you have one you want to talk about before we moved on to a different
I don't
one?
remember this one.
This one is not on the album. I'll talk about it. I forget whether this is on the album or whether this was released. We're in this new world where you can release music without albums. You can just release singles. But I know Miley Cyrus did a cover of this recently, and this is a Billie song. It's cool. It starts off like very, very mellow, and then it kind of has a dance beat drop in halfway through. But it talks about, I can't seem to focus. Where is it? I'm in love with my future. I can't wait to meet her. And I'm in love, but not with anybody else. I just want to get to know myself, and it's kind of this growing into herself and kind of seeing what she's called to. And, from a Christian perspective, it makes me think it's like, oh, she's figuring out her vocation. She's figuring out like how God has specifically made her and called her to make a difference in the world. Now, I don't know her faith background, if she sees it specifically like that, but that's what it makes me think of. And if, I had a student or my child come to me and say, oh, I love this song. Like I would say, well, here's what I see in this song. I see a young person like coming into their identity and their giftedness and how God has created them to create and like give beauty into the world. I also, this is a theme through several of her songs. There's a place here. So it says, I know better than to drive you home because you'd invite me in and I'd be yours again.
Yeah. Which one is this from?
This is My Future. This is the same one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but there's in several different of her songs, there's this voice where she's like, I know I shouldn't do this, so I'm not going to. And it's very interesting in like super poppy music to hear like self-control exhorted, because that's not normally how it is. Normally it's Miley Cyrus. We can't stop. We're going to do whatever. If it feels good, what's wrong with it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did write this same line down in my notes here. Yeah. I know better than to drive you home. Yeah. Okay. And then the line after that I wrote down was, I'm in love, but not with anybody here. I'll see you in a couple of years. And that to me was like, Yeah. It's all right. I'm remembering this song now.
It's all coming back. All coming back to you now.
All coming back to me now. I took it almost as like whoever she, and this was before, I don't even think I knew how old she was yet when I was listening to this, or how young I should say, before I was listening to this. And I kind of took it as the guy he wanted one thing and it wasn't what she was willing to give. And, basically like she was in love with who she knew that he was, but he had not come into that person yet. You know what I'm saying? Like he hadn't realized himself in that way yet. So it's almost like, I think you'll get there.
Come back in a few years.
Yeah. That was kind of how I took it.
Yeah. My wife and I often say to each other, is like, it's kind of good that we didn't meet, like both of us dated a lot of other people first. Is like, if we had met earlier, we probably wouldn't have ended up together because we're both kind of a mess. Like we needed to go through a few things to get to the point where we were like ready for each other and ready to grow together. So interesting. So Zanny, this is one of the songs off the When We All Fall Asleep album. It's kind of on the same theme of a certain maturity from somebody so young. So Zanny, a reference to a Xanax pill. And it's kind of like her being at a party and she's like, it's very jazzy. I love this song. And then it has that like deep sub bass come in halfway through. And it says, I must be missing something. They just keep doing nothing, too intoxicated to be scared. They have ashtrays and I'm just here drinking my Coke and I don't need a Xanny to feel better. It's kind of, I don't know if you were ever this kid in high school, but I was always the kid that really wanted to be popular, but I think I was smart enough to know not to like get like blackout drunk and drink and do all that stuff. So I would go to some of those parties and just be like the sober guy. And after I went to a couple of those and I looked around, I remember going with my friends Kevin and Doug to a party one time, and it was like the first time I'd ever been to like a cool person party, and there was drinking and the parents weren't home, and my parents didn't really know what they were doing. Sorry, mom and dad, you're finding out about this now. And I went in and I'm just kind of there. I was like, well, this is kind of stupid, and not to judge anybody, but it kind of seems like some of these people don't know how to have fun without this. It just they don't really know what they're doing. They're playing at being grown up. And I think my friends even ended up getting into a fight over a girl that night. And then we just left, and it was kind of like just a lame night. And that's what this reminds me of. I don't know if you remember that person.
I didn't necessarily make that connection listening to it, but totally. I think just reading those words now. Yeah. Like absolutely. I actually did not have a drop of alcohol all through high school. Yeah. And I'm not going to like credit it to virtue. I think part of my way of, it honestly was part of my way of rebelling because everybody was doing it. Yeah. But I had like just a horrible experience my freshman year where I was around somebody that was
high school or college?
High school. Freshman year. Yeah. Another freshman was intoxicated, and it just completely ruined the thing we were at. Like had to get their stomach pumped. Like it was horrible. Gosh. Yeah. And it was a very surreal moment. I was just like, why do people do this to themselves? It's like, it just doesn't seem fun. I don't want that. And so, anyway, like you, I was always, when I did go to the parties, I was there to hang out, just to like be with people. And I think that because there was probably some people there that ended up either not drinking at all or not drinking as much because they didn't have to, because not everybody there was.
Not everybody there was. So. Yeah. I had a similar experience, and I feel like it led me to have better friends. Not that my friends never drank, but it wasn't about the drinking. Right. It was like we were friends and we were having fun. And then if they were drinking, like that was just, and then when I turned 21, my grandmother, we had a lot of alcoholism in my family. And so my grandmother, for all of our cousins, she had a thing. She's like, if you make it till you're 21 without having alcohol, you get $1,000 on your 21st birthday. And so some of my cousins were like, nope, I'm going to drink. But some of us made it to 21. Some of us did some other things other than alcohol before 21. But anyway, trying not to be super specific for my cousins out there who may not want things on the internet. But yeah, it it became for me almost like this badge of honor. Like, yeah, I'm going to rebel. I think it did put me in crowds with better people. And not that you're a bad person if you drink, but I think just it kind of made me hang out with people who were okay with doing things differently. So, and it's interesting to see that that's, at least in some ways, that's where Billie is, that she's, even though she's surrounded, like she could have anything she wanted. She's got the money, and when you're that famous, like people will give you what you want,
Yeah. And like, I wonder to what extent, because she's so young, man, like I wonder to what extent this type of reflection is only, I don't know. I wonder to what extent her being able to have the wisdom in this reflection is possible because she already had so many years of experiencing the joy and the fruit of creativity that like, and that totally gets killed once the intoxication comes in. It's like, you're done, like nothing else real is going to happen that night. But if she can stay up all night, as long as she's creating something, like, so I feel like the moment after experiencing that for so many years with her brother at home, getting into this world and seeing this type of socially acceptable behavior, like at a party, I don't know. I wonder to what extent it was just instantly like, this is the opposite of what I love. I don't need it.
I want to look at this last verse. They're waking up at sundown. They're late to every party. Nobody ever says sorry. They're too inebriated now to dance. Morning as they come down, their pretty heads are hurting. They're awfully bad at learning. They make the same mistakes and blame circumstance. And I mean, I think in other circumstances, that might be me where I blame the circumstance, but I definitely know lots of people in this situation where they go to a party, they get trashed, they make bad decisions, get in a fight, hook up with somebody, and they just kind of blame the circumstance. And it's a way of kind of living with no regrets. And 5 years later, they wonder why they have hard time with intimacy. They have a hard time not drinking. They have a hard time having fun. So I think a lot of times we don't realize how destructive these things can be. So, all right, let's, anything else about that song?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Was that the one with the Office references? I can't remember.
The one with the Office references is, which one is it's the Michael Scarn Threat Level Midnight. That Michael Scott had he had this whole, like spy movie made up, and they took references from The Office. And so Nick Del Toro was just telling me that apparently they did there's an interview with Rainn Wilson with Billie about, and like he's like quizzing her on Office stuff. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes. But yeah, one of the songs, I forget which one it is, but it's a fun little song.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Like, no, Billie, I don't do that dance anymore.
How are we doing on time? Are we going to get to Crown?
Yeah, let's talk about Crown.
Okay.
You can see me in a crown.
I'll let you go because I'm probably going to flip the script on Crown. Okay.
So I don't think I actually have the lyrics here for You Can See Me in a Crown, but as I kind of understand it, it's there's this line about tell me what's worse, living or dying first.
Yeah.
You can see me in a crown. It's almost a little braggadocious as I'm this little homeschool girl, but I'm crushing it when it comes to music, y'all. I'm 19 and I'm top of the charts. Like there's a little bit of that. You should see me in a crown. Anyway, that's kind of what I took from it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's anything deeper there that I'm missing. Flip it for us.
Well, that was, so I had your note before I listened to the song when you had highlighted that line, which is what made me want to like listen to the song. But when my first listen was also watching the music video,
which you just showed me,
which I just showed you, which if you haven't seen it, she's wearing a crown. It's just her sitting on like a stool in a room wearing a crown, and there are spiders crawling, like some smaller
Talk a little more into the mic.
Sorry. Yeah. Spiders crawling on the top of the crown, and then tarantulas like crawling up her leg and on her shirt, and none of it's CGI. It's all, which I later learned, it's all real.
And there's even
crawling on her face,
in her mouth. There's one point that
so we'll get there.
Okay.
So I don't know. Are there any introverts in your life?
Yes, my wife is an introvert.
Okay.
And I'm an extroverted extrovert with extrovert sprinkles on top. So.
What do you think Billie is?
I think she's probably an introvert.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the chorus of this song first hit, I thought, because it's kind of jarring when you get to this like,
yeah,
and the camera shakes in the video. To me, I was like, oh gosh, this sounds like probably how an introvert's brain feels when they're at a party.
Okay.
And once I had that thought, I couldn't shake. I was like, I have no idea if that's actually what it's about, but it fits, man.
Yeah?
Lyrically.
So
this is, I'm going to do air quotes here.
Do it.
When I'm doing a line.
Okay.
And then when I'm done is my commentary.
Okay, good.
It opens, bite my tongue, bide my time, wait till the world is mine. So wait till I can be alone again. These people are all here because they fell for these ocean eyes, which was the song that put her on the map.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was just alone in my room recording this song, and it was great. And now people love it, and they all want to come up and talk to me. They're only here because they love this song. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
But I just want them all to go away because silence is my favorite sound.
Okay.
And that's like, that's interesting to me as a creator, because what we do is like, we sit in silence, we have an idea, we let it foment.
Yeah.
And then once we start being creative, we break it. It's like, we need the silence to contemplate how we're about to break it.
Yeah.
Okay. Silence is my favorite sound. So then she asks, what's worse, living or dying first? And it's like, the note I wrote was, could be asking someone an uncomfortable question to make them go away.
Yeah.
or
smell my fingers.
Yeah. Or she's asking herself, because when you're racked by the anxiety of the crowd, you honestly don't know the answer.
Yeah. Like this is like, I could hear like some of my introverted friends being like, small talk is worse than death,
Yeah. And then there's the line, the phrase, blood on the marble walls, blood on the marble walls. And I'm thinking like, imagining everyone in the room is dead so that you can just be alone. Like,
I would rather literally have spiders crawling on me than talking to you right now.
Well, so then we get to the next line, which seems like totally an advance being made at a gathering. The voice of some dude like, come over, baby. I think you're pretty, and her response is, I'm okay. I'm not your baby. But if you think I'm pretty, you should see me in my crown. So this is where the music video becomes key to this.
Interpretation.
To this interpretation. Because right after she says that, she opens her mouth and a tarantula crawls out. So it's like talking to this creepy dude who's trying to advance, and it's just like, I'm not your baby, but if you think I'm pretty, you should see me in my crown. Like, he's going to leave you alone at that point, and your introverted self can go back to being alone and in silence. And so I just I heard it this way and thought it was, I have no idea if this was her intended meaning, but man, it sure is funny.
It is sure is funny. I can see that. Yeah. When you can see her wrestling with fame throughout this whole album, you can see her wrestling with fame and how am I going to react to this? And it's an opportunity. It's like a blessing and a curse. And like, it's that same thing. I had a dream. I got everything I wanted. And now what do I do with it? I heard an interview with Jim Carrey one time, and he said, I wish everybody could get rich and famous, because you would realize then that it doesn't make you happy. Yeah. And then you would really start going after what really makes you happy. So just get that over with, be rich and famous, and realize that there's plenty of miserable rich and famous people. There's lots of things that we think are going to satisfy. I feel like I use this quote in every episode, but St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless, O God, until they rest in you. Until we find that relationship with God, like nothing else, we're gonna go after. And if you finally get it, it's not gonna be enough. You're gonna that could be a relationship, that could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, that could be a certain position of power or prestige, that could be money, it could be pleasure, chasing a high, climbing the highest mountain, taking the best drug, having the best party, having the best college experience, whatever that is. Like, there's so many idols out there, false gods that you can go after. This is not going to satisfy. So you see her wrestling with like, what do I do now that I have this? Where do I go from here? Anyway. Yeah. I'm going to go listen to that song again. and try not to think about spiders, but try to think about another thing about my wife. She's an introvert and she hates spiders. So I will never show her that
video. That's so funny. Well, that's like, I laid this all out for my wife this morning before I drove up here. And she just was like, yep. Cause she's an introvert. And it was amusing.
Wow. Do you want to pick a song? I'll look here at my notes and see what I want to go to next. I like Strange Addiction. I don't know if you like that song at all.
Is that the one with The Office?
That's the one with The Office. That's Strange Addiction. It's like, you are my strange addiction. Just add some friction. It's it's kind of flirty little song. But and then it's made kind of silly by the Office reference, and it reminds her, a lot of what she does on the album reminds me of things that people used to do on albums, and especially in a lot of rap albums, they would have like these little skits in between. And the album starts with her taking out her Invisalign and her and Phineas laughing like, "This is the album. I'm taking out my Invisalign." You like hear her slurp, like her spit into the microphone, and then there's these things from The Office. It just feels kind of a throwback to some of those old hip hop albums. Or even like an Adam Sandler comedy album. Almost.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Was there any like significance that you could see to it? Like, cause I can't recall
the Michael Scarn thing.
Yeah. Like, was it complimenting what she was singing about? Did it make sense to you in terms of like
I don't know. Maybe she's talking about her strange addiction to The Office, or
could have been.
Maybe she was imagining herself as Michael and Holly, or I don't know. By the way, on Elevate Ordinary, another Awaken Catholic show, we just had John Mark Grodi, the host, just had, and his wife Teresa just had Leodero on to talk about The Office, and it's a great episode. So if you're an Office fan, go watch that episode. They do a great job of breaking stuff down. Did you listen to All the Good Girls Go to Hell?
I did.
Yeah. So I really want to talk about this song because it's got tons of religious imagery. So let's just look at the lyrics and see if we can make sense of any of this. My Lucifer is lonely, standing there killing time, can't commit to anything but a crime. Peter's on vacation, an open invitation, animals, evidence, pearly gates look more like a picket fence. Hills burn in California. It's almost like climate change imagery, almost. Like I feel like there's a lot in this song. All the good girls go to hell, but even God herself has enemies. And once the water starts to rise, there's more climate change imagery. She'll want the devil on her team. I have a hard time making sense of this song, even though there's a lot of religious imagery. I don't know. Do you feel like there's a deeper meaning?
I wondered on my first listen if there was kind of a Screw Tape Letters-ish type character.
Okay, so it's like the devil whispering in your ear, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. It's funny, again, until like reading the lyrics now is very different than even listening and hearing them and thinking about them. Because just seeing that Hills Burn in California, that's obviously what's been happening.
Yeah,
a lot the last 3 years. Yeah, I mean, but I don't know what it means. I don't have like a good finger on it. It does sound to me like it's more than just trying to be controversial. Like I feel like there's a point to it.
It's not just using devil imagery to be controversial.
But I can't quite put my finger on it.
Well, and I wonder, there is a theme throughout, like, religious literature of this idea of the devil, kind of the way he claims victory almost is saying that, like, look, I'm the way things get done. God can have his ideals, but really it comes down to me. Like, you're going to eat the fruit. You want to be like God. Like, God's unreasonable. You want to be like God's, eat the fruit. Or, if you ever read the Brothers Karamazov, the Grand Inquisitor, he's this Dostoyevsky. This is what you get for having an English major as a show host. But, there's this cardinal who's like an inquisitor in Renaissance Spain, and Jesus shows up, and basically the bishop throws him in jail is basically like, look, Jesus, I know you're here, but we, the church, like really we're in charge. And like you taught people all this stuff about love, but really that doesn't work. And like what they really need is control. And that's what we're here to supply is control. And I like kind of the idea of I'd rather from Milton's Paradise Lost, where the devil says, I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. Mm-hmm. And I almost wonder if there's some of that going on here. Like, you know, really at the end of the day, God's plans don't work in the real world. Everybody resorts to sin to get things done, to get what they want. And like everything's corrupted in the end. I almost wonder if there's a little bit of that there.
Yeah. Kind of playing off that, I guess I can see maybe a warning there, where, you know, even if a girl starts as good, you know, and I'm only using girl here because that's what she says. That's what she's saying.
Because girls are evil is what you're saying.
That's Michael. No, that is not what I'm saying. You know, almost that like there's so much turmoil and like so many ways to be tempted, so to speak, or to lose hope just because of all the crap in the world that nobody can stay good forever.
Yeah. And maybe
I'm just like musing, thinking out loud.
Well,
here.
and I think that would make sense with all the climate change imagery. It's kind of like we've gone too far to turn back. Like the world's screwed, and like we've gone too far to be good. Like there's kind of this pessimistic, and that is the voice of the devil. That's like you're bad. You're gonna really be bad. You're never gonna be anything better. There's no way out of this sin.
Or even if you're good, it just doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why I think it hit the kind of screw tape analogy.
Yes. Yeah.
Hit me.
I also like. It calls God a her, because even God herself, it reminds me of that Dishwalla song from the 90s. Tell me all your thoughts on God, because I'm on my way to meet her. Yeah, so I knew you'd get that reference. Yeah. 90s rule.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. That helped me. That helps me make a little more sense of that song. I'm not sure I have it totally nailed down. If you have thoughts on that song, give it to us in the comments, because I would love to read and figure it out more. So.
Yeah, I'm also like. So some of these songs, man, I feel like I don't understand how she wrote it because she's so young. Like, is it just from her love of horror films, or she's obviously been very exposed to at a younger age to a lot of very adult art, you know, and thought about it. And so how much of this is kind of her mirroring this or reflecting on all of these things, and it's coming out in her music, and how much of it is just kind of maybe seems a little funny to her, because you know, when I listen to what's it called? Is it I Wish You Were Gay? That song? Yeah. That one was, again, probably 16 or 17 when she wrote it.
It's like, I love this boy who doesn't love me back. I wish you were just gay, and that would explain it, rather than you don't like me. Yeah.
Which is like, you know, for a woman who's maybe a little older than she is, and just things haven't worked out in the arena of love, and really wants to make that connection, and just hasn't, and has someone special. Like, that's a painful song.
It's painful for men too.
Yeah. Right. But I watched an interview with her where she said it's a kind of a joke. And so, but then she said that a couple times, and then said, but joke that's not the right word. So it's like, a part of it was she did think this was a funny concept.
Being playful.
Yeah, but also serious. And so I feel like her 10 years from now in the same place, like, wouldn't seem like a joke at all anymore. You know, just would be this moment of, it kind of reminded me of the Counting Crows, I Wish I Was a Girl.
Oh yeah. Great song.
Yeah. Which you look at the title on the track list, you're like, oh, that's a weird title. But then you hear it too. It's like, I wish I was a girl so that you would believe me. You know? Cause then, I
could shake the static every time I try to sleep.
Yeah.
It also reminds, there was a Katy Perry song very early on that I don't think would get released now, cause it just is not that PC, but it was called You're So Gay and You Don't Even Like Boys.
I do not know that
anyway,
song.
but it's just kind of about how this boy is very effeminate and,
oh, wow.
Anyway, yeah. So very, very offensive in all sorts of ways, but, that was Katy Perry's shtick in the beginning, at least,
That's so
was
funny.
being very,
I have no
so,
recollection of that.
You know what else that song reminded me of is, when I was in college, I dated a girl for, most of college, and we broke up and got back together and broke up and got back together. And when we broke up the first time, I was discerning the priesthood, and that was kind of why. And when we broke up the second time, I was not discerning the priesthood. And I just remember like the second time hurt a lot more for her because it was like, it was just because this isn't working out, right? Before it was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. He's discerning, you know, it's God's will that we won't be together, but it's harder when it's just like, well, this relationship isn't good anymore. And that's much harder to deal with. And I see her dealing with the same thing here now. Is like, I wish there was an explanation other than you're just not that into me, you know?
Yeah. Well, it reminded me of the Coldplay song from the album. Was it Magic? Was that the title of the album?
Yeah. Like
Ghost Stories.
Where he just broken up with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. Ghost Stories, which is underrated Coldplay album.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the song is called. It might be called Lie to Me, but that's the chorus. It's, tell me you love me, and if you don't, then lie.
Oh my gosh.
Lie to me. And it's like stick a knife in my heart. Man.
Gwyneth. Oh,
yeah. But it's
man.
all of this is like that kind of idea. Like there's gotta be, I need to know what the explanation is.
There needs to be a reason.
And if you can't give me a clear explanation other than like, if I don't know, it won't work for me. So just tell me you love me. I don't even care,
man,
if you're lying.
Breakups are hard. I wrote 2 long blogs for the Holy Ruckus, which is one of the sites I write for, about breakups, about like the Catholic guide to breakups and how to discern a breakup. Like breakups need to be discerned, you know, relationships need to be discerned. And like, you know, what is your will for this relationship, God? It's tough. Breakups suck, man. It's just so right. It's like really is like a death, like a mourning. Like psychologically, a lot of times you go through the same things as if a person died. It's it's hard.
I wrote, we're getting off into the weeds here, but I drove from Steubenville up to Traverse City, Michigan, which was
that's a long way.
It's a long way, probably 8 or 9 hour drive.
Wow.
With a communications professor from my college. We both just happened to be kind of working on this.
You went to Franciscan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We both happened to be kind of helping out with this commercial shoot up in Michigan. And I think I had him for like one class my freshman year, did not have a relationship with him. But he's asking me like, we got obviously a long way to go, the two of us in the car. And, you know, I don't know how old he was at the time, but like white hair. So at least old enough for the pure white hair.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the time I didn't have any music officially released, but I recorded a ton of demos on GarageBand and everything. And so I'm playing them, and I had gotten out of a 3.5 year relationship, and I had a lot of songs kind of, some of them were myself singing, some of them were characters, but just songs processing breakups. Yeah. And I played one of them, played a couple of them for him. And there was one in particular, that, how did it go? I can't remember the line, but when the song ended, man, this guy was like, been married for 30 years, had at least 6 kids, I think, like a big family. And when this song ends, he just started talking about a girl that he dated in high school and college and broke up and how painful it was.
It hurts.
And it's like, yeah, man, like it does not leave us. Yeah. You know,
even when you're like the person that initiates the breakup, which I have been a couple times, like it still breaks your heart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the Counting Crow, same album. The Mrs. Potter's Lullaby.
Oh yeah.
The price of a memory is the memory of the sorrow it brings. It's like, it's not necessarily that we're reliving the pain when we think about it, but it's the memory of the pain is what sticks with us. Man,
we got to do Counting Crows sometime. That'll be a different one. I know you love Counting Crows, but I love Counting Crows too. There's a couple more I want to hit. So Bury a Friend, which is what I started singing at the beginning, and where the title of the album comes from. It's kind of this self-loathing, like, why do you care for me? What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering? What do you know? Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? And then when we all fall asleep, where do we go? Like there's talking these big questions like, am I lovable? And is there anything after this? Like, these are some of the biggest questions that every human being has to wrestle with ever. And for as long as there be humans with consciousness and thinking brains, and as long as there will be, like, I think we will wrestle with these questions of like, am I desirable? Am I lovable? Am I worth anything? Am I good? Is there anything after this? Like, yeah, big stuff.
The music video, which we just watched right before this.
Weird.
Yeah, it absolutely has that, like, and I've heard her reference American Horror Story specifically in relation to that video. So that's wherever you see the horror, fantastical horror elements in her music videos, that's intentional.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until watching the video where I thought, like, who's the friend? Like, is it her? Like, is the friend this, the part of herself that she likes, you know? And yeah, or did she really lose a friend? Did she really have to bury a friend? Yeah.
And is that why she's talking about, like, I want to end me? You know, is she talking about these end of life things? Like, you know, I had a good friend of mine die of leukemia at the age of 33. And, like, it brings up these questions, like, you know, what would I do? You know, if that was me, if this was my funeral and people were up there talking about my eulogy, what would they say? Why do these people care for me? Where do we go? Like, I've been a believer my whole life, but really when it comes down to it, like, I'm still wondering, like,
when you fall asleep.
Yeah, when I fall asleep, where do I go?
Where do
you know?
Go?
Yeah. And that could be like when I fall asleep at night, like where do I go? Or when I fall asleep when I die, where do I go? So big questions, deep things. And that's one thing I like about her as a songwriter, as opposed to a lot of like early Taylor Swift, where it's like, you know exactly what she's talking about. She dated John Mayer, and now there's a song called Dear John, and you know what that song is about. And here it's like, there's a lot to play with. You know, it's not that specific. Yeah. And I think that's a strength of her songwriting, especially for someone so young.
Yeah, those words are just sleep on the glass, staple your tongue. Okay.
And they have like staple sounds and glass breaking sounds all throughout it. It's really interesting. And then, so there's a lot of kind of self-loathing, suicide, self-harm. The other song, Before I Go, it's all about like suicide, and it ends with sirens at the end. So there's a lot of kind of darker themes on that.
Did she write that for 13 Reasons Why? Which I never watched. My wife watched it.
I watched the first season.
Okay, so that's what I'm wondering, like, had she written that song and then they picked it up for that? Or did she write it specifically for that?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've forgotten that was part of that show. Yeah, that would be an episode. That's a crazy show. All right, are there other songs you wanted to talk about? We're getting close to the end of this time here.
My brain is a Billie Eilish mush at this point.
There's no spiders, no spider mush. Yeah. I guess better by spider mush than spiders crawling in your mouth. But all right. If somebody asked you, Kevin, I have never heard of Billie Eilish, what are 3 songs I should listen to? What would you say? And would you advise them to watch the music videos?
Oh man. So just for the sake of, I would probably honestly say that My Trajectory, just to, which would be we'll listen to the Beatles cover of Yesterday, and then The Tiny Desk, because that's the stripped back acoustic performance, just her and her brother.
Beautiful with her and harmonies and Phineas. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would say, You Should See Me in My Crown listen to the song and then watch the music video. Because at this point, the talent will be undeniable. Yeah. And the mystery of the artist will be somewhat unfathomable. Yeah. But you'll want to try to fathom it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, she's so, like, objectively so talented and amazing. I don't know what to make of her.
Yeah. So one of my, if you're interested more in the music side of this, I mentioned this a lot, but one of my favorite podcasts called Switched on Pop by Vox, and they do a good job of breaking down Billie's music and just the different influences of hip hop and jazz, and they do a nice job with it. My picks would be, I'd say Bury a Friend. That's a great song. You Should See Me in a Crown is just fun. And My Future, I really like My Future. It's kind of turns into a dance song halfway through, but I really dig it. It's got a cool message as well.
What's the one that opens the album though?
It's the Invisalign one. Well, and then it goes into
the dun 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 dun, because that one's cool, man.
Bad Guy.
Bad guy
is really cool. And then at the end, it kind of has this cool outro. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's close in prayer. I'll try to put all this into we'll pray for Billy, we'll pray for ourselves, we'll pray for our viewers and our listeners. So wherever you are, just take a moment and remember that you are beloved children of God. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and loving Father, we know that you are with us. We know that you look down upon us. And maybe even if we don't know that, maybe even if we're doubting, Lord, we ask that you would speak to our hearts, that you would send your Holy Spirit upon us, that if we have any self-loathing, if we have any part of ourselves that we don't like, Lord, that we would see our belovedness, we would see ourselves as a beloved son or daughter of God, that we would have the strength in hard situations where maybe our friends are making destructive decisions, for us to not make those destructive decisions, for us to be leaders in those ways, to help our friends in those ways, that, Lord, we entrust our futures to you and our callings to you, our giftedness to you, our talents to you. We give you permission to do big things with us. We ask for you to guide us through the many decisions, the breakups, the deaths and the hardships that we go through in life, Lord. And we thank you for your goodness to us, even if it's hard to see. We love you and we trust you. In the name of the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Kevin, for being here. This was a great discussion. I knew you were the right person to unpack Billie Eilish.
Oh man, when I was listening to this, I was like, maybe I'm not the right person for this, because like it's all so fascinating to me, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea.
Yeah, me neither. It's not necessarily. I think I actually like Phineas's music a little bit better than Billie's. But Billie is just fascinating. It's fascinating. Definitely a lot to think about. And I think we're going to hear more from her in the coming years. I don't think she's going away anytime soon. So we wish you the best, Billie. Yeah. What were you
Can I
say?
just add?
Yeah, please.
Because I said it before, when I said I don't know what to make of her, I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want it to seem like I'm skeptical. I don't know what to make of her. Like, I mean, as a compliment, like, she's a phenomenal artist.
Yeah.
So
it is. So Kevin, if people want to find out more about you and what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah. My website is just my name, kevinheider.com. That has links to whatever you might want, YouTube, social media. All my music that I've got is available on all of the, wherever you get your music digitally, it's there. CDs you can get on my website.
Yeah. But, and in November, you just had a new album out.
It came out October 23rd.
23rd, the end of October. Tell us just a little bit about that album.
Oh, gosh. It's called Make an Honest Stand, and it's just a collection of 6 songs that are very personal, but there's a lot of, like, it deals with American history, some songs about the state of the discourse, and the songs, honestly, they go back as far as 6 years, but they're all feel so incredibly relevant to now. So I would just sum it up by saying it's an acoustic-driven examination of our collective conscience.
And it's good, people. I've listened to it. It's good. I like the Flag Hits the Ground song. I think, and Make It Honest Stand is also good, but I think Flag Hits the Ground is like my, is that what it's called? Flag Hits the Ground?
Don't let the flag touch the ground.
Don't let the flag touch the ground. That's it. Hit me right in the feels. And you got a great voice, and just you're very intentional about the way you craft your art, which I appreciate. Song and Story, I think I've listened to just about every episode. It's a great podcast, especially if you're into songwriting. I recommend Song and Story.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from it, just about how other people do it. It's interesting.
And it's a great introduction to lots of songwriters you wouldn't know otherwise. So you had my friend Kevin D'Souza on. I've gotten into Scott Mulvihill through that. Like, just so many great artists. So thank you for that. You can find me, Mike Tenney, at MikeTenneyMusic.com, and I'm on social media at PKMikeyT. Thank you for listening. Listen to some Billie Eilish if you're vibing with it. You can support this show, Pop Culture Catechism, and all the shows at Awaken Catholic by going to awakencatholic.org/donate. If you make a monthly donation, you will join the Awaken Nation, and you get premium content. You get talks by me and other Awaken presenters and show hosts that you won't get any other way. You can also download the Awaken app by going to theawakenapp.io. It's not in the App Store. It's only through this link, and you can chat with show hosts. You get easy access to all the content on Awaken, and if you're part of that Awaken Nation, you get some premium content on top of that as well. So that's a great way to get in contact with show hosts if you want to make comments about the episode and talk to me and suggest stuff. That's a great way to do it. And of course, the Hallow app, if you are looking for a way to help your prayer life. It's so good. I know so many people whose prayer life has just gone deeper, and they're just even in the midst of their busy lives, they're finding that this app helps them have time to connect with the Lord. So go to hallow.app/awaken and sign up for a free month of premium through that link. And it helps us out. And it will also, I guarantee, will help out your prayer life if you use it on a regular basis. And of course, if you liked this episode, share it with people that you think might be interested in Billie Eilish or just anything we said. If anyone you know who likes Billie Eilish, recommend this to them, send them a text, subscribe, hit that bell on YouTube, give us a rating on your podcast app, write a review. All of that stuff helps us. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
This show and all media on AWAKEN Catholic is made possible by the AWAKEN Nation and the Hallow app. The AWAKEN Nation is a community of people like you who support all things AWAKEN for as cheap as a cup of coffee a week and get access to exclusive content. Learn more by visiting awakencatholic.org/donate. Hallow is the only audio-guided Catholic prayer app focused on contemplative prayer and traditional Catholic meditation such as Lectio Divina, Daily Examen, and the Rosary. We here at AWAKEN all use Hallow every day and love it. To learn more or give it a try, visit hallow.app/awaken.